Hello, welcome to A-Level Biology, an insight into the weird and wonderful. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through with you what the course is all about. You will also have some activities to do, and they will also be peer assessed by yourself. So they will be activities that are based on common areas at GCSE that also overlap to the A-Level spec as well. So in terms of the course itself, we will begin a brief glimpse into the A-Level course starting from September. We will look at what this means for you as a student within our school community. And by the end of this session, you should have an idea about is biology the best course and the best selection for you. Recently, the A-Level course has changed. It's been changed now that it's a linear subject, which basically means that all of your assessment is at the end of year 13. So standalone AS and A-Level. AS and A-Level are now separate qualifications. So now that we're doing a linear assessment, your AS and A-Level qualifications are now linear, so you have your exams at the end of the course only. So whereas before they used to have AS and A-Level separate, 3 years ago that was changed and we're now in the linear assessment component. So the 6 hours of terminal assessment for A-Level, so you've got modules that the content is broken up into. You then have 3 hours of terminal assessment for AS level, not normally offered at Newton. 6. So your A-Level exam component will be 3 exam papers altogether. So you have 2 that are 2 hours and 15 minutes in length. You also then have 1 paper that is 1 hour and 30 minutes long. Non-examined units called PAGs, so I will go into what they are. They're similar to your required practicals at GCSE Science. So if you remember in science, every unit that you were taught for GCSE, there was a required practical that went alongside that unit. Similarly in A-Level, there will be assessed practicals that you do, and there are certain skills whilst doing the practical activity that you need to adhere to in order to pass the PAG. In terms of your A-Level exam, all 3 components will also be assessing practical knowledge, mathematical and problem solving skills. The range of mathematical skills needed can be obtained from the specification. This is what I would recommend you to do before you enter Cardinal Newman 6th form and you begin your A-Level biology course in September. I would highly recommend that you go on to just type into Google OCR Gateway Biology Specification. If you can please download that specification into a booklet format, and that will be always at the front of your biology file. So when we go through lessons, you are always adapting your lessons to ensuring that you are covering the correct content to match the specification. Now we will have a look at the specification later. I know some of you may already have printed off the specification, as I did state that on Teams earlier. So what I would now like you to do is there are two tasks attached to the Teams. I would like you to open up both documents. You are going to spend 10 minutes at each task. There, I have put a link for an online stop clock for you to work through the actual task. So 2 activities, 10 minutes per each activity. Mark schemes are also attached on Teams that I would like you to assess using your red pen. And you can then use the link attached below, or you can use a stop clock on your phone. The questions begin as GCSE content and GCSE knowledge. They will then get steadily more difficult and more challenging as the questions go through. The reasoning for that is just to show you how some of this content from GCSE overlaps into your A-Level learning. The activities are, activity A is all cell structure. Activity B is patterns of inheritance. Now the reason why I picked these two topics is because they are quite large content in GCSE, and they're also quite a large content of the A-level course also. Okay, now that you've completed your worksheets and your documentation and you've peer assessed everything, we are now going to look at the specification in a bit more detail. So what you have in your biology A-level is you have 6 modules. So when you enter Cardinal Newman in September, you will be provided with a textbook. So you will be provided with the A-level biology OCR-A textbook. That will be for year 12 content. So that would cover modules 1, 2, 3, 4. So they are generally the modules we try and cover in year 12. And then in year 13, we would usually cover modules 5 and 6. So as you can see, module 1 is all about the development and practical skills in biology. So that unit itself will generally encompass things like cell structure, learning how to use a microscope and how to calibrate a microscope accurately and correctly. You will learn the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, eukaryotic cell structure. So you will go into the subcellular structures in a lot more depth than what you have at GCSE. Module 2 is Foundations in Biology. So that's learning all about your biological elements. So your carbohydrates, your fats, your proteins, your nucleic acid. It's more of a biochemistry module. You're also going to learn about DNA, DNA structure, DNA replication, and protein synthesis. Chapter 4 then within all of this module. So this is obviously module 2 we're still looking at. So within module 2 you also cover enzymes. So again we would have done that at GCSE and also triple biology. So you would have looked at what an enzyme is, how enzymes work, what are their more favoured environment to work in. There's also chapter 5 within module 2 and you learn all about plasma membranes. So for example, how do substances move in and out of the cell? So you look at your exchange mechanisms there, such as active transport, osmosis, and so on. Coming on to module 3 then, we then look at things like you're coming more so onto your human biology. So we'll be looking at your exchange and transport systems. So how does blood, how do things move around your body? You'll be looking at the breathing system. You'll also be looking at plants in a lot of detail as well. So plant transport, how do they move things like water and sugar around their themselves. And then the very last module then that you get onto, which is module 4, you learn about biodiversity, evolution and disease. So disease obviously is very informative. You learn obviously about how disease spreads, differences between bacterial infection, viral infections, herd immunity, all of those various components. Then when you get into year 13, you start to look at your module 5 and your module 6. Now, year 13, I believe, particularly module 5, a lot of it is more so to do with human biology. So you're looking at homeostasis, how your body maintains its internal environment. You learn about the kidneys, you learn about the nervous system, you learn about blood glucose concentration in a lot more detail, and then obviously homeostasis as well. You then also learn about respiration in detail, photosynthesis. It's a lot more complex than what you just learn, for example, at Key Stage 3 and 4. And then you also, module 6 then incorporates genetics. So you learn all about various genetics, ecosystems, and so on and so forth. So that's just what the modules themselves entail. You then obviously come on here and we can look at the assessment overview. So this will be where you're sitting your exams at the end of year 13 and it's talking you through the percentage weight for each exam paper. So you've got your biological processes, which is 100 marks, which is your first 2 hour and 15 minutes paper. That is 37% of your total A level value. Second paper you sit is biological diversity. That is also 37%. And the last paper you'll sit is your 70 mark paper, which is 26% of the total A level percentage. Now, your practical endorsement in biology is reported separately. Now, what that means is all of the required practicals you do throughout year 12 and year 13, there are 12 of them altogether. There are skills you must meet at each of these practical activities. Your teacher marks these practicals and we log them on an OCR spreadsheet. So OCR have access to see, have you hit the skills in these practicals? Some of the skills overlap in various practical activities, so if you don't hit them in one, you will have the opportunity to hit them in another. What your teacher will then do at the end of year 13 before you finish your course is they will get in touch with the exam board and they will inform them as to whether you have passed all of your practical endorsements or whether you have not passed. Obviously, if you want to go on and study a science-related course in university, you have to have passed all of your practical endorsements in biology. Hello, welcome to A-Level Biology, an insight into the weird and wonderful. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through with you what the course is all about. The assessment skills, as I was talking to you about a moment ago, they're embedded within learning. So what that means is a lot of the practicals that you carry out are directly related to a topic or a chapter from the textbook. So for example, if I was teaching you about blood sugar or about the structure of glucose, then I would do the PAG that is associated with that tests sugars. So whether something is a simple sugar or whether something is a complex sugar. So we would generally do these practicals in lesson. You would then have a notebook that we would provide you where you store all of these write-ups. You would then go away. You would have maybe a week or so to write up the practical. That would generally just be including a graph of some sort. Every practical have a graph. You would also have some compulsory questions that would go alongside each PAG. Those compulsory questions you need to answer about the PAG are very, very important because those kinds of questions get asked in your written exam papers at the end of year 13. Hello, welcome to A-Level Biology, an insight into the weird and wonderful. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through with you what the course is all about. You will also have some activities to do and they will also be peer assessed by yourself. So they will be activities that are based on common areas at GCSE that also overlap to the A-level spec as well. Hello, welcome to A-Level Biology, an insight into the weird and wonderful. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through with you what the course is all about. You will also have some activities to do and they will also be peer assessed by yourself. So they will be activities that are based on common areas at GCSE that also overlap to the A-level spec as well. Hello, welcome to A-Level Biology, an insight into the weird and wonderful. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through with you what the course is all about. You will also have some activities to do, and they will also be peer assessed by yourself. So they will be activities that are based on common areas at GCSE that also overlap to the A-Level spec as well.